Dragon Quest V is one of the greatest stories ever told, but there's a catch. It's not on the most desirable of platforms. Nevertheless, it's a story you need to experience. Your grandma needs to experience. No, even your dog needs to experience this. I am here to narrate you through not only the story's events, but also the setting, the tone, the raw emotions as the hero sets forward on his adventure. I make sure to include the snippets of world building and expand the story further by fusing relevant lore drops with the game's events to flow naturally into the story to invoke a larger emotional impact and leave you with more emotional resonance in my narration, giving it my all to do justice to this title. So here's a quick recap. Thanks for watching and subscribe if you enjoy. Previously on Dragon Quest V, Luca and his family along with Sancho explored the world and discovered the followers of light have spread their evil influence into each corner of the world. They had completed Queen Isis's prophecy and confirmed that young Prince Breno is in fact the legendary hero and acquires the Heavenly Helm. A 150-year prison seal has broken free on the mighty Bjorn, and the hero and his family nearly died in battle, but together they defeated Bjorn. However, there are stronger threats lurking in the world, and the gang, now stronger than ever, head off to search for clues regarding the stories of the fated Dragon Tower. Scouring the globe with the new magic carpet, they had the ability to hover over water and land like a bird, and they discovered the tower, hidden away amongst the mountains in the middle of the ocean. The tower was an ancient structure long since touched, for the inside was destroyed, perhaps by age. It was not easy to navigate such a destroyed tower temple. It felt more like a maze with no end. The tower had several angelic statues watching over it, watching over Luca. Eventually, they reached near the top of the tower and found a strange man with wings. He was shocked that anyone was left willing to climb the decrepit tower. For long ago, you used to be able to enter the heavenly Zenithian castle if you made it to the top of this tower, but now the castle is broken and dormant at the bottom of a lake. He says if Luca's heart is set on seeing heaven, then he must take the magma staff and use it to melt the rubble that blocks the cavern's path. With the magma staff in hand, the family searched unexplored areas, starting with the region northeast of their home of Gotha, nearby El Haven. Luca and the others thought it would make sense that any clues on the gateway to Zenithia would be nearby El Haven, the town dedicated to God, and they were correct. Deep underwater by their side, they could see a faint, large structure. The cave had many man-made structures inside, like mining gear and railways, which was very strange. They had to align some of the tracks to carry them around with momentum. They realised the only way forward was to use these tracks. After a while, they were shocked to see a man was stuck in a loop on the tracks. They rushed to free him, and he says he foolishly decided to take a cart ride, and he's been going around in circles for 20 whole years. This stupid man's name is Dr. Agon, and he claims he lived amongst the heavenly folk, and assumes that Luca and his family are heading toward the heavenly Zenithian castle. Dr. Agon is also heading that way, and he tags along. It took a long time to travel through these caves. The carts were out of order for so long, Luca spent several days learning them, and eventually he had stumbled across a steam-powered train that began pushing him faster and faster. Luca had lost all control and sat by, accepting whatever is about to happen. After nearly passing out from the speed, the family found themselves in a large castle underwater, thinking, could this be the heavenly Zenithian castle? Dr. Agon is sad that the castle had fallen into the lake and now the entire thing is flooded. He can't figure out why the castle had fallen in the first place. His words confirm Luca's suspicions. This was the heavenly castle. There isn't a trace of anyone left, but Dr. Agon knew about a secret staircase behind the throne. The staircase led far down under the castle in what seemed like a trophy room. There was 2 pedestals with orbs on them, except one of the orbs had disappeared, the golden orb. Dr. Agon says a few years back, some meddlers caused a little trouble and dug this hole. The gold orb probably fell down there, and the castle couldn't remain with only one orb's power. Fortunately, some of the gold orb's aura remained on the pedestal, just enough to give them a clue on its exact whereabouts. He closed his eyes and focused his energy onto the pedestal, and he began seeing what befell the great heavenly castle. That means, with the gold orb smashed when Luca was a child, the castle will no longer stand. Dr. Agon tries to hold on to hope and thinks of a possible way. He is certain there was a legend that spoke of ancestors of the fairies creating both orbs. Maybe if they ask the Fairy Queen, the fairies can make another one. There is a forest somewhere in this world that can lead you to the fairy village. Luca remembers that recently he had stopped by the abbey and a nun told him she knew of a forest east of Sarabona that was home to the fairies, which is their next stop in their quest. It was a journey spread across multiple days, but they had found this mystical forest. There is a small home at its entrance where a dwarf and a woman live. They say this is the lost forest that's said to be the entrance to the fairy kingdom, but humans easily become lost. The woman claims she saw a fairy when she was a child, but only when she was a child. They began to navigate through the maze and Bueno spots something by the campfire, something nobody else can see. Bueno just talks to nothing, telling nothing it wants to go to the fairy kingdom. Bueno leads the family following nothing, except it wasn't nothing. Suddenly, lily pads appear across a mini lake into a temple with a teleporter to the fairy realm. The rest of the family could not see the fairies in the real world, for only special children are able to see them. The fairy village is flourishing. It's a home where humans, fairies, and monsters can live together, except they haven't had a human visitor for 20 years. And an old man realizes that Luca is the same boy that saved them 20 years ago. But also, both Bella and Lady Poen recognize Luca immediately, even after so many years. Luca had explained the situation to Lady Poen, and the time came to fulfill the favour she owes. And she hands Luca a horn. She cannot help, but the Queen of the Fairy Kingdom can. The librarian says the fairy castle cannot be seen by regular humans, but when the fairy horn is blown, it will appear. It is hidden on a lake, deep in a forest, surrounded by mountains, in the real world. 20 years ago, Luca had saved the fairy realm and indirectly the real world by defeating the Ice Queen and returning with the Spring Flute, but on his way he had to defeat Zale, who stole the flute. Now, 20 years later, Zale is living a normal life down in a cave. After reuniting with Luca, he is recruited to join Luca in the wagon as part of his monster crew. Travelling back to the real world, the family travel north of the Dragon Towers to a large lake surrounded by mountains. Luca rides a raft over to the centre of the lake and blows the melodic tune from the fairy horn, a magical tune that reveals the fairy castle. The fairies knew that Prince Bueno was the legendary hero. They knew it at the day of his birth. They was waiting for him. Lady Poen had already informed the Queen of the situation. The two orbs in the heavenly castle were in fact created by fairies. Unfortunately, they are not able to craft them again, but she offers a different solution. She hands Luca a glimmering orb. They did truly try to make a new orb, although they appear to be identical. This orb does not have the power to raise Heaven's castle, but Luca may be able to do it himself. The will of God is mysterious, since Luca carries the heavenly blood of the chosen ones of El Haven, and Bianca is a direct descendant of the heavenly folk. When Luca and Bianca's bloodlines joined together, the legendary hero was born. The family head to the second floor, where they find a painting depicting the legend concerning the birth of the legendary hero, and another painting where a fairy says it reflects one's heart. It will take you to a place you fondly remember. Luca stands in front of the picture, closes his eyes, and opens his heart, thinking of the one place that means dear to him. He opens his eyes, and suddenly Luca is magically teleported into Wheelbrook, except it's alive and well. Luca had been taken back to the moment before everything came apart, the last moment in his life where he was unconditionally happy. Currently, the town is under a cold spell. The wintry weather is destroying their crops. A woman's stew has gone missing and the grandpa is blamed, even though he denies any involvement. Strange things are happening all over Wheelbrook, and Luca gets the strongest sense of deja vu. In the church, a nun lost all of her senses when she saw a hottie like Luca walk in. Luca knows what he must do, but before that, he can feel his heart beating. As he enters his old home, he sees Sancho, young and healthy, but more importantly, what was making Luca freeze up was his father. Luca saw him for the first time in 20 years. He tried explaining that he's his son, but Pancras would not believe him. and he asks to be left alone for urgent business. Luca also found a book in his childhood home, one he tried reading as a kid but he was too young to understand the words. It was a book about the heavenly Zenithian castle. There was once a castle that floated high in the sky, but then tragedy struck when it lost its magical orbs and fell to the earth. When the orbs are returned, the castle will once again return to its rightful home in the sky. Outside, Luca spots his younger self playing with Peach. He approaches and chats to the boy, who willingly showed Luca his glowing orb since he doesn't seem like a bad person. Luca passed the glowing orb to older Luca and switched it secretly with the glimmering orb. Luca then handed the glimmering orb back to younger Luca. The child is so happy how cool the orb is. They have a conversation together, and kid Luca says that no matter what tough things come his way, he will never give up. Luca doesn't want to leave without seeing his father again. He goes to talk to him and urges him not to go to Coburg Castle. Pancras thinks that Luca could be a prophet, but he does not believe in prophecies, so he's going to go anyway, by orders of the king. But it's a little funny. Pancras says that Luca's eyes remind him of his wife's eyes. Luca had done all he could. He was not thinking when he was in Wilbrook. All he cared about was saving his father's life, unaware that if he was successful, the future would not be as it seems. But he tried anyway. He tried and tried and tried again, but he had done all he could. He now returned home with the real gold orb in hand and focused on saving his world, to make a world where his children can grow up happy and give them the life he never had. They zoom away to the heavenly castle and place it atop of a pedestal. The time has come to raise this castle to its proper place amongst the clouds. The castle had risen from the sunken depths of the lake, not high enough for Dr. Agon's liking, but still good enough. When the castle had submerged, many of the heavenly inhabitants had preserved themselves, and now they are free. Luca spoke to some heavenly scholars, and as they thank him for freeing them, he says they couldn't do it without one of their own people, Dr. Agon. But the scholar claims there isn't or ever was any of the heavenly folk with that name. The heavenly folk served the Master Dragon, and they are taught that he watched over the world when it was still young and peaceful. Humans are usually fairly good creatures, despite their forms being strange without any wings. Nobody had expected the castle to fall after so many centuries. If it had remained in the sky, the world wouldn't be in the state it is now. An old man who lives in the castle says that now the castle's returned to its former state, all that's left is to wait for the resurrection of the Master Dragon, the Zenithian dragon, the dragon god. It is written that the Master Dragon sealed his power in the Tower of Bobel, and Luca is given a grappling hook which will aid him on his journey to the tower. Suddenly, Luca accidentally steps on a button, which controls the entire castle. He can move its location freely atop the clouds and soar across the realm with nothing standing in his way. They had scoured the globe for any new areas left undiscovered, and they found a lone island southwest of Sarabona, an island with a strange tower. The door is locked and they climb the 1,000 steps to the very top and use the grappling hook to lower themselves. The tower was filled with strange ritualistic puzzles and strong monsters, but not strong enough. There is a nun on the floor dying. She utters the words, "Two unspeakable demons, the dragon's eyes," and she fades away from this world. The family explores this tower in search of these two unspeakable demons, and as they get lost within the deepest underground chambers, Luca comes face to face with Slon for the first time in 20 years. Slon had been informed of Luca by Larger, and they enter battle. When they last met, Luca was no match for Slon, merely an insect to him, but now the tides have turned. Not only is he proportionally 200 times stronger, he has his family by his side, a loyal, worthy protector who stands aside casting Kabuff on the party to ensure they're all protected, a magical sorcerer with various deadly spells, Princess Faith, and the fated legendary hero Prince Bueno. Slon was strong, insanely strong, Lodge's #1 warrior, but he was not strong enough. for this was his final battle and his resting place. Slon was protecting a chest. Inside was the dragon's left eye. All that remained was the right eye, and the likely culprit along with Slon would be none other than Con. Luca had an encounter with Con 10 years ago, the same day he and Bianca was turned to stone, the very last day he ever saw his wife. They explored these deep caves more and found not Con, instead was Larger. He was waiting patiently for the day he could see Luca again, so he could kill him with his bare hands. He lunges toward Luca and starts a battle that will decide the fate of the world. The last time Luca had seen Larger was when he was turned to stone and lost his wife, 10 years ago. He could do nothing to fight the spell. And before that, then, it was 20 years ago, the day his father died, and he died by Larger's hands. The family had never encountered such a tough opponent like Larger. They had combined all of their abilities to overcome him. He was immune to spells and immune to various different effects, forcing Faith into a support role. Her spells were rendered useless. Both she and Sancho had focused efforts on reflecting spells away from the group, as well as insulating their bodies to protect from magical abilities and casting spells to make the group's attacks deadlier. However, both Luca and Bueno's spells were rendered useless against Larger, forcing them to focus on full frontal physical attacks. Larger had attacked so quickly that the group could hardly keep up, attacking with twice as much speed. Larger had first defeated Sancho. Next was Luca. Only the children had remained. The time was running out for the children and the end was near, but they banded together and unleashed their strength onto Larger, with Faith getting the finishing blow. She was able to defeat her father's sworn enemy in his place to avenge her grandfather and her mother. Larger begins to cower in their strength and chuckles at their shocked expression. He was merely playing with them. They are foolish to face him with their abilities in a location such as this, but he says it doesn't even matter. He missed his chance. Luca may be down, but he can hear Larger's words. He regrets not killing Luca that day he burned Pancras to ashes. Larger must leave now, and no matter how strong Luca or the others get, they will never defeat him. Now he goes to report his findings to Grandmaster Nimzo. As Larger faded away, behind him was a chest with the dragon's right eye. Bueno healed his father right up and Sancho too, and together, with the two dragon eyes, they placed them into the large statue in the middle of the dragon tower, revealing its open mouth. This passage had led the way to the dragon staff, and close by was another room centered with a pale but shining orb that gives off a strong aura. Luca had found the dragon orb. They returned to the heavenly castle to show everyone what they found, and Luca came at just the right time. A suspicious man has been lurking around the castle. He claims his name is Dr. Agon and that he's one of the heavenly folk, but they say no one with his name has ever been among them in history. But Dr. Agon has been waiting for Luca, who's brought along the dragon orb, and he pleads for Luca to hand it over, and the power begins to surge through his entire body. The Master Dragon had been resurrected. He applauds those with the legendary blood coursing through their veins for combining strength and wisdom. While he walked the earth as a human, he saw peace has once again been denied to the world. The portal to the demon world grows larger and larger, and its diabolical king seeks entry into the realm. The Master Dragon is certain that the legendary hero is capable of preventing that from occurring. For all is not lost, and he will lend his power. He handed over a heavenly bell. When the Master Dragon's presence is needed, the bell will summon him to their aid, and they can travel freely across the skies.